The pound-for-pound king in the world of boxing put on a show last weekend as Naoya Inoue picked up a knockout win. He was already number one in my pound-for-pound rankings, so probably not changing at the top. Maybe I'm taking some of the drama out of this, but I do think with David Benavidez fighting this weekend, and Beterbiev and Bivol at the end of the month, and then after that it's Tank Davis, I think it is a good time to just assess where is everybody right now in the pound-for-pound rankings. So, let's get into it. Coming in at number 10 is Teofimo Lopez. I have said before that in making this list, there was a few guys who was, you know what? I think that's the guy. I think there's my number 10. And then you look at the resume, he's lost to Teofimo kind of recently. So, okay, all right, well now, here we go. Lock it in the list. And well, that guy lost to Teofimo. And then you go on down and then you look at Teofimo, it's like, well, pretty good wins on that resume. So he comes in at number 10 on my list. At number 9, it is David Benavidez, as he goes for a championship this weekend in the light heavyweight division. And again, when we do this ranking a week from now, I don't know how much this is changing again. You look at the guys ahead of him, I don't know if a win over Morrell Jr. really gets you all that much higher here. But the big thing for Benavidez, and I think it is the big story of the weekend, is that this fight, I don't want to say it's a necessary evil, because I do think that is kind of glancing past Morrell, who, as we talked about on Monday's show, is a fighter to watch, and is a very intriguing prospect coming out of Cuba. But he is not on a level where Benavidez beats him, and you can put him ahead of Bivol now, and all of that. But a win here gets him into an opportunity where he could conceivably, they are looking at making him kind of the next one who gets the Mexican days, basically. So he could go Cinco de Mayo weekend against Bivol or Beterbiev. That might be a bit of a tight turnaround for those guys, but follow me on this journey. Cinco de Mayo weekend, he gets those guys, and then Mexican Independence in September, he gets Canelo. That is in the cards for Benavidez this year, is that a win this weekend, maybe it doesn't rocket him up the pound-for-pound rankings, but a win this weekend sets him up for 2 fights that could get him at the end of the year to number 1. That is where we are at with David Benavidez right now. Now, I will say, that schedule I laid out, if I were to bet whether that's going to happen or not, I would bet against it. I think it's a bit of a tight turn to get that for Cinco de Mayo weekend against Beterbiev and Bivol, and it sure sounds like Canelo wants to fight almost anyone else, and even if that anyone else is Terrance Crawford coming up in September. So I would be surprised if that is how it played out, but you at least can kind of see where this guy could be going and the heights that he could reach if things go really well for him this weekend and in the rest of 2025. Up next, at number 8, we have Devin Haney. Just a really, really solid boxer. All-around skill, all-around, just a very talented guy. And probably talent-wise deserves to be a little bit higher on this list. At number 7, it is Dmitry Bivol. He does have a bit of a setback against Artur Beterbiev, but now they have a big fight coming up in a couple of weeks here in Saudi Arabia. And I think he has a chance to just basically switch spots with Beterbiev. We talked before about how this has a chance, even though both guys are at a bit of an advanced age, this has a chance to be a really, really great rivalry in the light heavyweight division. They're fighting for the undisputed championship again, and so a big fight again coming up here for Bivol in the next little bit. Coming in at 6th in our list, it is Tank Davis. He has a big fight coming up beginning of March as he looks to continue his march up the pound-for-pound rankings. He is another one where it gets tough to move him up right now because of how good the boxing space is right now. When you look at, ahead of him is Canelo, and that one is a more legacy-based type of a thing. If Canelo keeps fighting guys that he should have no problem with, then Tank has, I think, a pretty easy leapfrog ability there. After that, it's Beterbiev, who's an undisputed champion, and he got that by beating a guy who's just behind Tank Davis. After that is Terrance Crawford, who got into the number 3 spot by beating a guy who was on this list and probably should be on it again in Errol Spence Jr. Ahead of him is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, who is that after being the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. And the guy ahead of him is Naoya Inoue, who knocks everyone out and is a champion in 3 weight classes and undisputed in 2. There's just some really talented guys ahead of Tank Davis right now. And so, again, Tank could have a blow-away year and work his way up this leaderboard and work his way up the pound-for-pound rankings really, really quickly. But it starts in March, and I think it's going to take a little bit of cracking to get him up there. Nothing wrong with being the 6th best boxer in the world at any given time, but I think if I went up to Tank and said, hey, man, love your stuff. You are the 6th best boxer in the world right now. He would beat the hell out of me in ways that I couldn't even conceive in my mind. So yeah, really great stuff. But just tough to get a little bit higher on this list. At 5, I guess I kind of gave away the rest of the list. But at 5, it is Canelo. I understand that the resume lately hasn't been as inspiring as we would want it to be. And continuing to not fight Benavidez is very, very frustrating. I get that he wants to bet on himself, move up into light heavyweight again, and get another opportunity at trying to crack through there. But I think that there are other things that he needs to take care of around him. And so he is the one that you could see really fall off in the top 10 here in 2025. At 4, it's Artur Beterbiev coming off of his undisputed championship victory over Dmitry Bivol. If you beat a guy who's on the top 10, you deserve to be in the top half of the top 10. Normally, that would put you in the top 3, but we got a real good top 3. At 3, it is Terrance Crawford. The fight in August, it wasn't amazing, and I am a little bit surprised that we are still having the Canelo talks after Crawford tried to move up in weight, won, but did not look as impressive as you would have liked for him to have been, moving up in weight in that way. So I am surprised that they are going back to that route. It is a bit of a dare to be great, and Crawford, there has been a long stretch in Terrance Crawford's career where he was one of the most talented boxers in the world, but he didn't have the resume to back things up, and so no one wanted to fight him because he was way too good for where he was. So if you fight him and you beat him, you're not moving up all that much. But if you fight him, you're probably not beating him because he's really good, and then you lost to a guy who's not really ranked. So he has spent a long time getting ducked by guys and missing out on these opportunities. And then there's a lot going on in his life, and he comes back and he has the performance of a lifetime in one of the most one-sided beatdowns of a fighter in a pound-for-pound, like, top 5 matchup, maybe in the history of the sport. And so, yeah, I'm looking to cash those chips as well. You can say, you know what? I think he just needs to kind of, let's see how he does just one weight class ahead, and then maybe whatever. But time's ticking on this guy. And so I can see him being like, man, fuck that. Let's just go. Let's dare to regret. Finally, there are good fighters who want to fight me. Let's fight them, and let's see where I stand in this thing before the career really winds down. So I do commend him for it, even if I am maybe a little bit surprised at how all of that has played out. At number 2, it is Oleksandr Usyk. His victory over Tyson Fury helps him maintain his status. And I know he said he's the undisputed champion of the world in the heavyweight division. That is actually factually incorrect because the sport can be very frustrating sometimes. But he still comes in at number 2 in the pound-for-pound rankings because of what he has done at cruiserweight and now cleaning out the heavyweight division. Probably a really good fight with Dubois is coming up next for him. And at number 1, the man who just knocked out his 26th opponent, he is Naoya Inoue. Very interested to see what we get from Inoue going forward. I will say, I talked before about how this guy needs to get a little bit more of the recognition that he is due because he is so good, but he's not fighting the bigger names. And so someone, David Park, at David Park 2509, commented on the Inoue Fight Night Breakdown on YouTube, saying Inoue is already an all-timer, but there's still a lot of doubters. I suspect he will finally get recognized as a legend when he moves up, capturing a third undisputed title at featherweight while putting on an absolute show in America. That would be a game changer, I think, for him. And then we're getting into all-time status with him. So that would be very interesting. Again, for now, he's doing all right as the pound-for-pound number 1 fighter in the sport of boxing on the men's side right now. All right, that is it for the boxing stuff. Again, coming up on Thursday's stream and podcast, it will be the Benavidez-Morrell preview.